Stalker Priboi is an extremely old mod, and according to the ModDB page, it is the first auto conversion mod, and apparently is still the only one. By today's standards, that might be nothing special. With Gamma, Demosfen and whatever other disasters created by the community, Stalker modding is truly in a league of its own. But for 2008, this might have been something quite impressive. A mod that takes Shadow of Chernobyl and mishmashes it into a completely different experience? No one has ever done that before! And it is also made by the same people that made Lost Alpha. Stalker Priboi takes place 1 year after the original games. The zone has changed a lot since then, yet it remains the same. You play as military lieutenant Priboi Slipchenko, with the goal to be the Sherlock Holmes of the zone and uncover the secrets of an organization called UHSF, which most likely stands for United Hernia Sufferers Foundation. With the mod boasting about being a total conversion, let's actually see what it converts. When it comes to the atmosphere of the mod, it is quite good. Considering it looks and feels like a reskin Shadow of Chernobyl, it does have a lot of charming little details that make it stand out from the other older mods, like your PDA being camouflaged or Duty and Freedom having slightly different colors, which is more ironic now that Duty wears the flag turn in the relationship while Freedom just has this demotivated vomit green that is somehow still more colorful than the entirety of Anomaly. And all of the aesthetics get completed by the guns, which makes it look and feel like an old game, because it is. The arsenal consists mostly of updated vanilla weapons and some unique ones, like the MP7, or the MP9, or the OTS-43 Pernach, as well as some very rare weapons, like the old FN2000. Of course, there is a huge difference in quality, and that is quite hard to ignore, and the gunplay itself is tweaked very slightly. The guns now bounce side to side instead of just upwards, but in the end, all the weapons seem to work well as long as you aim for the head, so you don't really have to worry about your choice. Except that Tech 9, what the fuck is that? The Stalker behavior in the mod might be a bit of a weird one. I really wish I could say something more about the AI, but it is literally just Shadow of Chernobyl AI, but made slightly more brain damaged. And the worst thing being that there is no real A life. You will not really see any stalkers wandering around except in scripted areas. They will strictly stick to their camps and wait for you to interact with them, and then proceed to ignore you, as it feels like the latest Saya mission absolutely fried everyone in the zone. One moment it feels fine, and another they instantly forget that their best friend just got murked next to them. But such is life in the zone. He was a shit stalker. And the mod doesn't really shine with its mutants either. They feel slightly more tanky than usual, but going from wet paper to just paper isn't much of a buff in my eyes. If it even exists, and it's not just my brain psyoping me, as the Chimera consumes half of my ammo reserves. But those shots obviously missed. Yeah, nothing really to be said about mutants. They exist and do stuff. Sometimes. Now to check out the unique features of this mod. The most obvious one being that your character has the training of the average Serbian soldier. You can only run for about 3 seconds before getting tired and walk for 2 more before collapsing from alcohol abstinence. Which is honestly such a fucking shit design choice that I suggest you go to the scripts and change it to this, so it makes one idea more sense. Or alternatively, you could use one of the other methods of transportation. Vehicles! So many fucking cars! The zone is obviously the best place to stress test some of the masterclass luxury cars of the USSR, such as the Zeal, and the Bus, and the other fucking Bus, and the Lada, and the other fucking Lada, and the third fucking Lada, and the Jeep, yeah, this one is fine, and the fucking tractor! Of course, driving in the zone is probably the most horrible idea, which is why I kept on doing it. I could literally just sit here and drive the zone cars all day because it's so fucking stupid. You go speeding in the zone, hit an anomaly, and end up transporting yourself to 2012 Stalker 2 until you flip them out and you're stuck on foot. Shit. Another one is the cut feature of artifact activation, letting you to plant anomalies whenever you want by giving your bow a bit of handiwork. With all of these changes, the mod itself is quite a solid package. If you ignore the A life, and the stamina, and the fact that duty is still included, and the fact that there is no quick saving, what the fuck? Literally the only way to save is through a hard save, or by typing save in the console, which I kept on spamming through my entire playthrough. Well, what would be the story of a mod that advertises itself as turning you into the Sherlock Holmes of the zone? What could it be that it makes it so special? It's 20 documents. You go around hunting for 20 documents. But now let's not rush too far ahead, and let's start from the beginning. The mod begins with a cutscene, from which you learn that you are a soldier for the Ukrainian military named Priboi Slipchenko, and to your unfortune, you'll be grabbed from your comfy desk and thrown into the zone to figure out the UHSF case. Right after, you'll be dropped in the South Cordon checkpoint, with your first goal being to meet the commander. The commander gives Priboi a serious briefing by roasting his fashion choices and tells you to fuck off and see Sidrovich. Of course, he also offers you a chance to be a patron of his alcoholism. Once out of the checkpoint, you get to drive your first car. After that amazing journey, you have several things to do in the rookie village. First one would be to meet with the leader there called Buddy. After he brags how he visited your mother, he tells you that your house is right behind him, and that Sidrovich left, apparently again. While exploring more of the camp, the loners tell you that they don't want to talk with you, then proceed to talk with you the second you ask anything. Going down into Sidrovich's dump, you can find a box with a message in it, and it says something along those lines. Yes, hello Priboi. I know I should have waited for you, but I have to find this S.T.A.L.K.E.R guy. He owes me a favor downstairs. After reading more of Sidrovich's fanfiction, you learn that he'll be waiting for you at the bar. Once you enter Priboi's house, you'll find a magic box of supplies to last him approximately 2 seconds in a Hungarian hood, and a bunch of furniture that you can trash around. Once all the work was done in the village, it was time to ride towards the bridge and meet up with Major Kuznetsov. He shares more information that Sidrovich had passed through a few hours ago, and that S.T.A.L.K.E.R cheated the army and ran away. Right behind Major Kazakhstan is a conveniently dead bandit, who has a PDA with information on UHSF. Very convenient indeed. The PDA shares that the bandits tried to rob General Voronin of a UHSF document, but they fucked up and left the document somewhere around the roofs in Rostock. After a bit more of wandering, I finally headed to the garbage, but not before committing a bit of vehicular terrorism on the zone fauna. Once in the garbage, you get a notification telling you to find the stolen information. On my way there, I ran into a gang of bandits, so with the use of the zone tank Mark 1, I was able to push through their positions. Moving towards the depot, I unfortunately had to stop my machine and continue on foot. In the depot, the loners were fighting with the bandits, so I went in to help and what the fuck? Well, the wish granter is here in the garbage. And if anyone paid attention to the dialogues, the military moved it here just to flex on the stalkers. Moving on from that, the information I had to find was close by, in the train tunnel, and at the end, a dead stalker, and on him a flash drive, which is my flash drive for some reason, so I don't really know what happened, but inspecting the flash drive it says something about a crashed helicopter in the army warehouses. I guess they tried Operation Stalker AI again. Moving on to Rostock, the first thing you notice is the duty didn't do their fucking job again, and the second thing you see being the bar's backroom, but Sidrovich's greasy mug seems to be missing. Looking around, you'll be able to find another message from him. Apparently, Professor Shakarov called him to Yantar for some reason. Sidrovich has also learned information about Ghost's old house near the military warehouses, and the professor and Sidro will go there to look for clues regarding S.T.A.L.K.E.R, which is fucking stupid. An old bastard and an old sick bastard doing the job of stalkers is way below what Sidro would do. After a big gap with Voronin, I learned that there is an old UHSF member in the army warehouses, and that Fang was a part of that group as well. He also mentions the leader of UHSF, a man named Dezik. According to Voronin, Dezik was a chief of the X-Labs, and apparently Krugov was involved as well, as he worked for the labs. But since then, he has been brainwashed by the government or some shit like that. I don't know what the man was yapping about.
Hello, brother. Come.
After that, I decided to search for the documents around the roofs of Rostock. And after some solid overthinking, I realized that the picture is a hint, and I found them inside of Duty's wheat plantation. The documents themselves had information on missing parts of the CMPP, as well as a plan on the Warwap, according to which the Warwap was there before 1979. With that complete, I got a PDA message about the next documents, that are apparently in Agroprom. Upon entering the map, I got a task to eliminate the mercenary resistance, so I got into my battle machine and charged ahead. Ah shit. Okay, plan B. Fuck! After messing around for a while, I managed to take out the mercs at the North Complex. Right after, I attempted sneaking into the South Complex before having a skill issue and going loud, which is most likely an easier approach than trying to sneak in. After bombing the merc commander, I went in and found the documents. They were encrypted and the only info was the names of S.T.A.L.K.E.R and Ghost. With the next documents being in Lab X18, I headed there. Around the Dark Valley, I met with a wounded stalker. I asked him about UHSF, and he says that they were allegedly responsible for the labs and biological experiments, and that some guy named Mark Uno was the one to uncover their secrets then disappear. Of course, that dialogue popped up for just a second because the guy decided to run away. I soon decided to raid the bandit base to see what it has to offer, and it has been confirmed that the bandits are Bulgarian because they don't even care what's happening around them. After a relatively standard combat encounter, I managed to reach Borov's office and found another document. This one describes Dead City, and that it was the former base of UHSF. It also mentions that Sidrovich might attempt to reach Dead City, and someone named Zero that could be in the army warehouses. While ravaging through the bandit stash, I found some X-virus antidote drug. Apparently, this deadly virus was made in X18, and it is very deadly. I then grabbed the car and drove directly to X18. This will never get old for me. Inside the lab there were a few snorks and the body of a scientist, but without a proper code it was impossible to go deeper into the lab, as the old one didn't work. I understood that I was missing something and backtracked to Agroprom. Once there, I jumped down into the underground. There, a spellcaster Romanian immediately attacked me. But once I was through the mag and the few underpaid gas station employees guarding the underground, I was in S.T.A.L.K.E.R stash. Inside, I found a document stating that the chief engineer at Lab X18 sealed the labs with a new code and that his wife hid it somewhere at the CMPP. Bratan. But now, a photo was attached to the previous document, hinting where the X18 document is. Once out, I front-tracked back to X18 and found the next document easily. The document stated that UHSF was founded in 1982 and were carrying out experiments regarding the noosphere. After their first success of creating zombies in X18, half the document was apparently missing, but the last page said something about an incident that happened in the lab. It also mentions Professor Krugov and Doc, who worked in the MPP before the zoning. Other names are General Voronin and Zero Drakozin. We know where General Voronin is, but Zero is said to be stuck in that city, or Pripyat, and with the next document located in Pripyat, my next step was to talk to Voronin. Asking Voronin about X18, he can give a few lines of information. That he worked in X18 as the security chief, that Professor Krugov and Professor Dyatov worked in X18, and that a part of Voronin's job was to load and unload death trucks. Slightly spicy, but not the most useful info. After that I headed directly to Yantar to find Professor Krugov. I asked Shakarov if he knew anything, and he confirmed that Krugov worked for UHSF in X18, and that they were experimenting on human and animal subjects and something about some virus. Unfortunately, he also shares that Krugov was lost a year ago in X16, and is most likely dead. The next step was to head down into the now disabled X16 lab. The lab was occupied by the usual zombies and snorks, but they weren't paying rent, so it was time to evict them. And amongst all the unpaid bills, I found Krugov on the bottom floor. On his person was a pistol, a Red Bull, and a Samsung Galaxy S13 with a code written in it. So, I robbed his corpse and immediately ran away and reported it to the scientists as missing. And once out, Shakarov had nothing to say, lol. Well, it was time to head north to see what's out there. Sidrovich had mentioned that he would check out the Bloodsucker village with the professor, but I haven't seen him since, so it was time to check out the village. I eventually jumped down in a basement and there he was, dead. On him a piece of paper. Apparently old Sid caught some virus in X16 after going down with Krugov and is now eating his flesh. What a fucking idiot, man. Why would he go down to the lab to collect samples when there is 50 gazillion stalkers willing to do that for piece pay? The writing is honestly infuriating. After picking up the document, I caught the virus myself. But I already had the X-virus antidote from the bandit base, so that was pretty much a nothing burger. Another thing that Sidrovich mentioned is some old book, so I looked around the houses and found more papers. Those were written by Ghost. It shines light on some interesting details. That Ghost's real name is Sergei Veswov in the mod, that he lived in the Bloodsucker village before the incident, that he was a death truck driver for UHSF, that they were creating something evil down there, that he and S.T.A.L.K.E.R were working at X10 before the incident and later started doing their own business in the zone, and during their ventures they met Zero, who was their arms supplier and had contacts with the corrupt military. And with UHSF labs closing, they were targeted to be either brainwashed or killed. So they went into hiding, but ended up splitting up, with Ghost heading north. After reading Ghost novel, I decided to help the duty squad Silence to eliminate Freedom, since they are our enemies in this mod, and because the guide said so. So, I took down the Freedom sniper, but not before he killed the duty leader and bugged the entire quest. So on my second attempt, I parked a ladder to cover him, and it was time to get messy. clearing out the Freedom Base, I found some documents. It had general information about the Chernobyl incident, so you can pause and read it if you are interested. Another thing I found is the PDA of the Zik. On it was information that a zombie is created using some magic voodoo shit. This is peak Stalker writing, and on the bottom was a code that could be useful. So I went back to silence for my reward and began my attack on the barrier. After successfully succeeding the attacking, I checked out a nearby fallen chopper and found a report that another helicopter with scientists was down on the territory of the raider, so I had to check out if anyone survived. Upon arriving in the radar forest, I decided to park my truck and to continue on foot. Upon arriving at the crash site, the scientists were gone and their bodies close by in the grass. The scientist chief had a flash drive on him, with an essay on how much he hates freedom for downing the chopper, but between all his bitching he had a piece of a code. Useful. I knew that one of those codes was for the Scorcher, so I started climbing the hill to it, but it wasn't much of a challenge as the monolith was not even trying to do its own job, like literally. And soon I was inside. I reached the metal door and unlocked it with one of the codes. Inside the brain rotor were just zombies and a few mutant corpses. Towards the end was a controller and a few Albanians. Exploring the final room of the Scorcher, I found nothing, meaning I must have missed something. So I decided to head to Pripyat and get the next documents instead. After fighting my way through both Monolith and Freedom, I reached the location of the next document. It was on top of the elevator in the eastern apartments. The document said that UHSF Lab X16 requires new human bodies, live ones, and the Zinc ordered the Monolith together with Zero to transfer sick but alive people to the lab, using the death trucks. Truly peak horror writing, and I also found an extra document in the Palace of Culture with more loose information about the CMPP incident. And the next main document was in Dark Valley, so I grabbed my bus and went on a wild ride towards the valley, but I couldn't exactly find this village they mentioned on the map, but it was there, in the corner of the valley, which is a very odd thing to add, but they don't pay me enough to complain. Or at all. So I cleared out the settlers and started looking around for anything interesting, but it was mostly emptiness and lack of reason to keep going. And after overthinking places it could be hidden, I eventually found them. In the middle of a house, in the open. You really can't tell I've attempted to play Sri Lanka 7 times. The document mentions problems of mutation rate in children, of people exposed even to small doses of radiation. Luckily we are stalkers and women don't exist, so we don't have to worry. Also, this is a very weird document to be stolen by the bandits. Next task was to find Zero's flash drive, and he's supposed to be somewhere in the warehouses. But before that I found another hidden document in the bandit base. This is the one that Krugwolf and Sidrovich were looking for. It contains a lot of reports about the research in X18 and X16, and even information on the psi emitters. It also mentions the virus and that the documents with the code for X18 is hidden in the Red Forest, with another code to open the door to the hidden code. So I took my truck and headed north. From what I gathered, Zero had gone mad, so he most likely is where the crazy stalker from Shadow of Chernobyl is. Once I made my way through the minefield flawlessly, I took down Zero and stole his flash drive. On it was information that Zero worked at the Warwap as a security guard. Unfortunately for him, 10 days after the Warwap closed, his memories were erased. The flash drive house has coordinates on another code for yet another door. My next PDA message was that I had to find 3 documents, peak storytelling. The first ones were in Agroprom in this train tunnel, and had just general CMPP incident info. The next one was in the Scorcher. On my way to it, I opened this door and found another one. It contained the incident report in Lab X18. During some virus testing, it got out of control and it blew up. Because only UHSF can make a fucking bacteria to combust. Everyone in there became zombified and the UHSF sealed the lab. At the end, whatever, fuck off. At the end of the facility down this hall were the next documents, which again just adds to the collection of documents on the CMPP incident. The next step was to find the Zink's flash drive, but I'm pretty sure I already killed him, what the fuck. And around here is where I just had enough and modified my stamina, because running around half the zone with 3 seconds of sprint just to read a Wikipedia article was not worth my time. And oh my god, was it worth to change it. What were the devs even thinking, bro? I traveled back to the Freedom base and burglarized the Zink's office, but I couldn't find the flash drive anywhere. And get this, you're supposed to find S.T.A.L.K.E.R and Doc in this base, dressed as Freedom members, and get the flash drive from them. Of course, why didn't I think of that? After all, they're just slightly staring at the grass. How could anyone ever miss this? Especially when this guy doesn't even look like S.T.A.L.K.E.R. This is Ivan Ivanov from Lulin. I am so done with this mod, man. Fuck off. The next item of interest was S.T.A.L.K.E.'s flash drive, which I found in one of the western apartments in Pripyat. It contains info on UHSF members, Ghost, Doc, Zero and the Zinc, as well as some experiment reports and illustrations, I guess. Here is the next description. I don't fucking know what it means, but Red Forest time. With only this door remaining unopened, I figured out the code and got in. Inside were more documents. This time they directly gave you one of the new codes for X18. And the next document had no hints except a picture, which my no-life ass figured out was the very specific brick floor shit concrete walls around the Palace of Culture. But I was wrong. So I beat up my goose, but I just couldn't figure it out. So I looked up the guide and it said it was the kindergarten. But I had no way of knowing that, because I am not that kind of YouTuber. And very appropriately, this document shares information on the effects of the dark elixir of the barbarian kings, leading to the creation of the original elite barbarians. With nowhere else to go, it was time to head to Chernobyl itself. I pushed through a few groups of fanatics, walking through the corpses of the soldiers that were here before me. Eventually, after wandering for a while, I found a lost squad of soldiers and went directly to the commander. After a bit of yapping about how they got captured and escaped, he shares that the evac will be on the other side of the CMPP, and they will be waiting for us. My job would be to make a way through the monolith forces and reach the other side. It was go time. But my PDA shared the location of another X18 code in the sarcophagus. There was more to be done. Inside the sarcophagus, it was the usual shit you'd expect. The wish granter desperately begging for attention, and the monolith soldiers stacking around every pipe. Luckily for me, I've been doing combat practice for the last 3 months, so this was nothing. Help me. I reached the epic piping room and began looking around for the documents, and somewhere between the lethal dose of radiation and my heroin addiction, I found the documents. With them being just a new code for X18, that was more than great. So before heading back, I headed deeper into the plant for one last document. Funnily enough, they weren't kidding. The wish granter is just gone, but its spirit is still here. Keep it up, bro. We know you'll make it. Well, the next document was in the sarcophagus, right to the right of the monolith in the rubble. The document has photos of UHSF, information on their base in that city, and is written by S.T.A.L.K.E.R himself, the second assistant of the Zinc. And even after the Turkish government called the Zinc, he still managed to escape and eat the concrete of all cities around the Balkans, with the fanfiction ending with another torn document piece. And finally, it was time to head inside of X18. So I got my trusty truck and headed right for its gates. So I went down and opened the door and there's a fucking timer! What the fuck was that, man? According to the guide, there is a vaccine, so let's try again. Bro, 3rd time's the charm. Oh, the fuck is this shit, man? Ah, fuck, man. Despite the bad zombie RNG, I somehow managed to reach the pill before my abstinence kicked in. Cannot allow a thought to form itself in my head. Finally, I will get to see what it is that hides so deeply in Lab X18. Up the platform was a decoder, another COVID vaccine, and a weird urge to test my PC with the glass physics. It did pretty well. And in the final room was yet another box. In it, documents stating stuff that doesn't really sound like secrets were to be buried so deep into the zone. Like, don't they already have this medical information in the 90s anyway? The final piece of the peak storytelling was in the Warwap, because that is the one place it didn't make me backtrack to, so it was time to journey north again.
Don't let your guard down. We're not there yet.
And eventually I was at the sarcophagus itself, and it was time to go through the ending once more. Trying to escape the noosphere. Eventually, I reached the final document, with it being just the bank information of UHSF. It also exposes their base in that city, their connection and cooperation with the monolith, their failed attempts at creating Nestle too, and Priboi for some reason wonders where they got out their money from, and it's obviously dropshitting. So why not just call it Siccon anyway? Okay, I'm thinking too hard, let's continue. Once out, I was immediately hit with the laggiest version of Chernobyl to date, with the ending part having 2 possible ways to tackle it. You can either get in this BTR and just drive across the CMPP like a true Zumba male, being completely ignored by the monolithians and going through any obstacle, or do it the hardcore way with guns and fighting and fucking alcohol and beans. Oh my god, beans! Either way, you'll get the same ending. Ah yes, Lieutenant Priboi, you are finally here. Commander Wilkins sent me to contact you as soon as you got to the extraction point. We thought you are dead. It is good to see you again. Did you find out the documents about the secret UHSF organization? Good day, sir. I made it. They're in this steel case. I collected every existing document and information about that secret UHSF organization. Good job, Lieutenant Priboi. Wilkins will be impressed. Hand it over now. I need to see them. I see. You have found everything we needed. So guys, kill him. I guess you remember Wilkins' last words. There will be victims on both sides. We cannot let anyone live with these secrets. You are the last victim of this case. Rest in peace, Lieutenant Priboi. Alright guys, he is dead by now. Head back to base. Case or whatever the fuck is closed. So that's it guys, the end. Fuck you XDDDD. Honestly, this story was absolutely how do I put this? Shit. It's peak mediocrity. From all the Stalker mods I played, this might be the first one that I will roast to oblivion. First of all, the timeline makes no sense. It requires a very specific quest order to be completed if you want to understand anything, even though it lets you to reach Sidrovich in the warehouses instantly, which is exactly what I did and spoiled half the obvious story to myself, because most mods taught me to not follow orders so bluntly. But not here. Instead of adding triggers, you need to go to the cordon, to the rookie village, find Wolf's Razor, move up to Agroprom, cook instant noodles for the general, commit the bite of H7, then finally can you wipe your ass like a true gamer. Honestly, what a waste. It literally is just finding 20 documents. Of course, beside the story, the mod had plenty of charming details. It really has that old school mod vibe, which I really like. But unfortunately, the many downsides made it quite harder to enjoy and leaves me wondering what it could be. And by far, the best thing about this mod was the vehicles. Well, there you go. Stalker Priboi, a mediocre mod for the modern day that was probably far more impressive back in its time. But even then, I'd prefer vanilla over it. I hope you enjoyed this, whatever this is anymore, and I hope you guys are prepared for Stalker 2, as I plan for it to be my next review, if I can fucking handle it, holy shit. It could take a long time again, but I swear I'll get through it eventually. But I won't cow any deadlines as I wish to enjoy the game, not just play through it. I would like to give special thanks to my Patreon supporters, those being Marcin and my girlfriend. If you wish to support me, you can do it through there or by becoming a member on YouTube. If you have any mod recommendations, leave them in the comments and I'll add them to the list in the description. And again, thanks for your attention. Good farting, stalkers.